All right, it looks like we are live now. So hopefully we are. Hi, everybody. We are using a different streaming software today. So excuse us if we have some technical difficulties. If we are, please just put them in the comments so we know what's going on. But I am Casey Kephart. I have Jessica Melnick here with me. We are talking about mindfulness today. We'll do some brief introductions, so why we're talking about this topic, and then we'll just get right into it.
Wonderful.
So I am Casey Kephart. I am the founder of Nutrition with Casey. I host the free Facebook group, Nutrition for Women with Autoimmune Disease. I have my master's in functional medicine, so I am a licensed dietitian nutritionist. I am a certified clinical nutritionist and a board certified health coach. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the sun always shines. It would be this way. And I'm happy to have Jessica with me, who also works with autoimmune diseases. So Jessica, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thanks so much, Casey. For those of you who don't know me, especially people in Casey's group, my name is Jessica Melnick. I am a registered holistic nutritionist. I'm also a former social worker, and I am the creator of the anti-arthritis method and the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions group. So very excited to be here today. I reside in Saskatchewan, Canada, which is not super north in Canada, but as you can probably tell by my sweater, it is much, much colder here than it is where Casey is. So so Casey and I are colleagues, and it's amazing that we can connect when we are so far away and that we can connect with all of you today. So as Casey said, we are going to be talking about mindfulness today. And I'm just going to start off by talking a little bit about what does that even mean? So in a nutshell, being mindful is simply being aware and paying attention. So being aware and paying attention to things like how your body is feeling, if you have any aches or pains, or if you're feeling off, if your bodily functions are not what they normally are, being aware of our moods, being aware of our thinking. So a lot of times we just have thoughts. We have so many thoughts in our day, and most of us we're not really paying attention to what they are. They just kind of run in the background, but they affect our emotions. So that is why it's really important, if we're feeling kind of down or off or blah or whatever, it's good to look at, okay, well, what's going on? Like, what am I thinking that is contributing to those feelings? Being aware of our environment and how that is affecting us, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. Is it a stressful environment? Is it noisy? Is it quiet? Just being aware of those things and how it is, how we are interacting with those factors. Also, relationship dynamics. What's going on with some of our closest relationships? How is that affecting how we're feeling physically, emotionally, and mentally? Whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's with a close friend or a family member. So just being aware of those things and how they relate to how we are feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah, I love that list. It was very in depth, but it sounds pretty simple, right? Like we're saying these simple things that you've probably heard multiple times before, and you're like, oh yeah, 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 but we don't do it. We know of it, but we don't do it daily. We don't do it throughout the day a couple times because our moods can change and our environments can change throughout the whole day. So it's not just when you wake up, you need to be mindful, but it's once an hour, it's once every 4 hours, just depending on your schedule. So all of these things are pretty easy, right? But we don't do them. So an example of not being mindful, and I'm sure we hear this every day. I'm sure maybe some of you do it too. Let's say you go up to a friend or anybody, a loved one, and you're like, hey, friend, what's wrong today? Like, oh, I don't know. I just don't feel good. You're like, why don't you feel good? You're like, I don't know. It'll pass. So that would be an example of them not being mindful, right? Let's just say that it's not really they don't want to talk about it, but let's say they just really don't know and it will pass. Um, that is not being mindful. So if you are one of those people that say this, some things that you can do and how to be mindful to figure out why you're not feeling good is ask some questions to yourself. So, did I eat something out of the ordinary today? Did I eat too fast? Am I stressed today? What am I stressed about? Did I get enough sleep last night? Was it quality sleep? Did I get in an argument with a loved one or a friend or your kid? And are you constantly thinking about that? Did you have just like an off interaction with somebody that kind of made you step back and make you feel a little weird? How are you emotionally feeling today would be a good question to ask. Are you able to label your feelings? Jessica, can you think of any more that I didn't address?
No, I think that's an amazing list
Okay.
of all the different kinds of examples of what we can ask ourselves. It can be as simple as, oh, why am I feeling so like anxious all of a sudden or agitated? And this is an example of me yesterday. I was just feeling like my heart was beating a little bit too fast and I was kind of rushing through things yesterday afternoon. And I'm like, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
this isn't normally how I'm feeling. So it's like, okay, so what's going on? Am I stressed about something I'm working on? Did I get an uncomfortable email from somebody that, made me have a feeling? Did I, and like I was kind of like looking through those things. I'm like, what is it that's bothering me? And it turned out I had too much coffee. So something as simple as that, just being like,
Yeah.
oh, note to self, don't drink 2 cups of full strength coffee. Because normally I drink like decaf or half calf because it just makes me like, oh. So yeah, just something as simple as that could really affect your day.
Right. And you're probably wondering why we're saying this. Like, why does it matter? Why do you need to do this? Because it will pass, right? Yeah, it will pass, but this is how you figure out what is wrong and what your body doesn't like, and how to improve your mood, your digestion, and heal in your autoimmune disease in general, put it in remission. There's so many factors that we just forget throughout the day or just let it pass by, when that could be the puzzle piece that you were looking for to take you to a 50% healing to, let's say, 60 to 70% healing, or even 100 if you're at that top level. So these questions that you're going to ask yourself are going to really put you into the next level of, okay, now what do I need for myself? I figured out, let's say Jessica's example, I think it's mirrored here because my hand motions aren't doing it right. But Jessica over here, she said that she was really anxious, right? So she took a step back, and she said she just drank too much full calf coffee, which isn't normal for her. So that's telling her that, she shouldn't do that anymore, at least
doesn't agree with me.
Right. At least on a day where she needs to work and she needs to have stable emotions and all of that. So some other things that these questions might help you figure out is, do you need a nap? Do you need better sleep? Do you need to talk to a loved one or your therapist? Do you need to call and set up a first appointment with a therapist? Do you need to reach out to somebody who knows about autoimmune diseases or a functional medicine practitioner? Do you need to set boundaries with people? That's huge, and we can do a whole nother live on boundaries. Love talking about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But Jessica, why don't you say some more about that? Not
Yeah.
boundaries.
Another big one too is, do I need to take care of a task right now or something that I've been putting off? Mm-hmm. So like procrastination, sometimes when we put off tasks that we're not really fond of doing, but we know that we need to get them done, it can really weigh on us and just make us feel, and then that can lead to things like, mindless snacking on stuff that we probably don't need, or that's going to make us feel even worse. Just that's continuing to procrastinate, doing other stuff, wasting time, scrolling through our phones endlessly, and then just kind of compounding that and leading to feeling like even more stressed out about it because it's like, oh, now I wasted 45 minutes doing nothing and not getting nothing done. And then it's just this compounding effect. So sometimes, just realizing, okay, what will actually make me feel better? Think about into the future a little bit. It's like, what can I do now that's going to make me feel the way that I want to feel?
Right.
So that to me is an example, just getting stuff done that we know we need to get out of the way so that that weight is just lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah. Another good example would be, so let's take Jessica, where most of your clients have a lot of joint pain and muscle pain and just achiness. Let's say you are not feeling that anymore most days, and then you get a flare up, right? You're finding that you're achy and it's hard to sit down right now, or whatever it is, you know what it is. That's a really great time to be mindful. And if you're not, you're never going to figure out why that flare up came about, and it's just going to keep happening. So take a step back, take a minute, take 30 seconds just to kind of see, head to toe, how you're feeling, and then emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever you want to do. But you need to do that to figure out what's going on so it doesn't happen again, and you can recover in a quicker amount of time this time and next time.
Absolutely. And Casey and I both have programs that address these issues. So we help you become mindful of not just what you're eating, because of course we're nutritionists and diet is very, very important, but to also make you aware of yourself as a whole person. So like Casey was saying, spiritually, if that's part of who you are, mentally, emotionally, looking at like your relationships, your family situation, your work situation, your friends. So looking at your life in all its aspects as a whole, and how do those things contribute to your physical health in terms of your autoimmune condition? So the first part is being really aware of how these things are affecting us positively or negatively, so that we can actually address them so that we can start getting better.
Right. So a simple question would be, what's not working for me and how do I get rid of it? How do I fix it? So we both have really great examples just in our personal lives that you may be able to resonate with on when we were going through our journey, what was our like starting point of being mindful, or our starting point of like, this is what needs to be fixed now so I can start feeling better later. Jessica, do you want to say yours first?
Sure, I have lots. I probably won't go through them all because I could go on forever. But one thing that I used to do that was terrible for me, and especially if you have an autoimmune condition, whether it's an autoimmune form of arthritis or any other autoimmune condition, is that we tend to fatigue a little easier than the general population. So I used to do really intense workouts at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would just basically roll out of bed, have some water, put on my workout gear, go to my living room and go and get this done. And it didn't matter. I didn't care how I felt physically or how I felt emotionally that day. It was like, no, I just need to get this done. And I remember when I first started having arthritis symptoms, and I remember getting swollen hands and wrists. And in particular, my right wrist was really bad. And I had a ganglion in there at the time. And of course, I was in my early 30s, and I was just like, I don't know what this is. It's going to go away eventually. I'm just going to ignore it. So I couldn't do push-ups or planks from the palms of my hands like you normally would. So instead of just, doing something less intense, I decided that I was going to do those from my fists. So that's an example of just ridiculously pushing myself and doing something that I should have been taking care of my body more and listening to what my body needed. And at the time, what it needed was a modified workout and maybe some more rest, because I was not getting enough sleep at that time either. So I was ignoring my needs in that way. So sometimes by the end of the work week, between that, being up way too early in the morning and then working on school after doing full days of work and going to bed way too late, I should have been getting more sleep and taking better care of myself
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I think you also made a really good point that we didn't touch on here. So you were mindful of your body, that you couldn't do it on your you couldn't do it on your palm, so you needed to do it on your fist. You were mindful of what was going on, right? Like you knew that you didn't feel good, you knew that you needed to modify it, but you didn't, and you just kept pushing yourself. So that's another step. So you first need to be mindful, then you need to actually do the work to do what your body is telling you that you need. So you can't just be mindful, you have to actually put it into action. So
Mhm.
Jessica, that's a great example, and I'm glad that you finally found a way to put that in action. And sometimes we just hit rock bottom, right, where you can't
Yes.
go anymore.
Oh, and I did hit a rock bottom. Like I got to a place where I could barely use some of my joints. And like there was a time I couldn't even climb down two little sets of stairs because my one ankle stopped working. So my body eventually it forced me to
Yeah.
stop and reevaluate how I was treating it and how I was living my life. So I don't wish that on anybody though, but sometimes unfortunately that's what some of us need to get that reality check.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and I'm sure all of us have rock bottoms that we've hit or are going to hit. And I'm sure we all will, because you are not, everybody I feel like hits a rock bottom with autoimmune disease. And if you're the lucky one that never did and you are still consistent with, getting recovery and putting yourself in remission, good for you. You are a strong person.
Mhm.
But it, I guess just go into my example then. I had more to say about that, but it just lost me.
It'll come back.
I know, it always does. Um, so mine's not as extreme as yours. I'm sure I have a bunch of examples that I'm not thinking of because I went through like a roller coaster of my healing journey. But mine was the thing that stands out to me when I think like what's not working for me and what I need to do about it now was my toxic relationship. So I mentioned yesterday in Jessica's group that I had a toxic relationship, a toxic boyfriend that I was dating. I was in a toxic house with a toxic family, and a toxic workplace. So every relationship that I could have in my life seemed toxic to me. And I started realizing when being mindful that this person is weighing me down. It's like a ball and chain. Um, this person is affecting my moods every day. This person is wanting to make me eat things that I shouldn't eat because of stress. So I started to realize this and I started to put into action how I can disassociate myself with them, at least the ones that I could totally, you know, say goodbye to. I could. Some family is not easy to do that, as well as workplaces. So I had to learn to, one, be strong for myself, but two, how do I disassociate myself from these toxic people? So I started being really, really mindful about that. And it was a long journey, but once I started to get over that hump of having toxic people in my life, I was happier. I had more
Mhm.
positive thoughts. I was more diligent in my food and my eating and my lifestyle and working out and not feeling so sluggish and drinking as much and doing all of that. So I feel like that was my first really big example of being mindful and putting it into action to where it was putting me over the hump to actually healing my body.
Mhm. Oh, that's an amazing, amazing example. And I think a lot of people, and including me, we often don't realize how things like our relationships or our family or our friends, or our work affects how we feel physically. I think sometimes we can become resigned to things and think, oh, well, that's just the way it is. I have to live with it
Right.
and I don't have a choice. But we do always have a choice. And sometimes they're not easy ones to make, and sometimes we can't make them like all at the same time
Yeah.
or immediately. Sometimes we have to work towards making those changes, like getting out of an unhealthy relationship or setting boundaries with people who are a little harder to detach from, sometimes like family and
Mhm.
other loved ones. But it's just being aware that how they are affecting us, because all of those things, not just what physically happens to us and what we put in our body in terms of like food or supplements, all those things affect our physical health and our
Yeah.
autoimmune condition.
Yeah, and like you said, we're kind of numb towards the situation if it's something that is happening every single day and it's just normal for you. It's like your new normal. This is just where I live. I have toxic people around me. I need to do better. There's nothing to do about it. Or you don't even realize it. It's kind of like having a sticky note on your desk that you see every single day to remind you of something. And eventually you just don't see it anymore because you see it every single day. It's the same thing with toxic people, environments, or anything that you're doing that isn't serving you.
Yes.
Um, so I think first step, moral of this whole live is be mindful and just take a step back throughout the day, and just really put an intake on how you're feeling emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then Jessica made a good point. Put it in action. Do something about it. And, it starts with mindfulness and then you have to implement it. And we both have programs to help with that. We both touch on mindfulness and we touch a lot on lifestyle. So ask questions. We've done it. I'm sure a lot of people in the groups, if you're watching from mine or Jessica's, have done it too. Let's start a conversation about it. Because it will help you get over the hump of feeling sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Absolutely. And there is support for you. You're not the only one that's going through difficult times. And that's why we have communities, is because we're here for each other. And because we do understand, we not necessarily have had the same experiences, but we do understand what it is to struggle with some situations that maybe aren't the healthiest. So we got you.
Exactly. I love that. We got you. Mic drop. I think that pretty much wraps up everything we needed to say. Yeah.
I think so. I think we covered it all. I don't think we missed anything.
Awesome. All right. So next week we'll be back on our normal schedule of Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know this topic is called Thursday Thoughts, but just erase that and just say Wednesday Thoughts.
Yes.
So next week, Tuesday, Thursday, and we'll be streaming live from both groups now because of this amazing new streaming thing we finally were able to figure out.
Yes.
Comment below of any thoughts or questions you have or any topics that you would like to hear us talk about or things that you want to know. And reach out if you need any help. We're here. We have programs all about this. We've gone through it, client experience. So let us know what you need.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Right. Thanks,
Have a good
Jessica.
day, everyone. Thanks, Casey.
Bye.
Bye.